Hello and welcome to this very special programme on Back of the Net. It was a year ago today that AFC Bournemouth fan Peter Humphrey sadly left this world way too early. He was 28. He was a truly unique person who was very much loved and cared for by those that knew him and, through the power of Twitter, those that didn't. Now, earlier this season we all applauded him on the 28th minute in our match against Sheffield United to pay tribute. Whilst dealing with his own issues, he was passionate about helping others with their mental health, and on this programme we're going to be speaking about an initiative which may prove useful for those that potentially need it. But before we do that, a year on from his passing, his wife-to-be Hannah had these words to say. It's been a year since we lost Pete, and it feels like the quickest and longest year of my life. I think about Pete every single day, about how much he would have loved this or that, about how much he must be laughing at my misfortune from up there, but mostly about how much I miss him. I miss the way he used to wind me up constantly, his silliness and clumsiness, his obsession with ice poles and McFlurries, but mostly I miss the way he used to look at me. Pete struggled with his anxiety and depression since before I knew him. There were times when he would withdraw from everyone, he wouldn't get showered and dressed, he wouldn't eat or leave the house. It was heartbreaking to witness the one you love in so much turmoil and not being able to do anything to stop it. Throughout my time with Pete, there were multiple hospital admissions, each one a little more scary than the last. It was heartbreaking to sit by wondering why, when and how each and every time. Between Pete's family and I, we put things in place so that medication, etc. wasn't to hand anymore, but there's only so much you can do. Pete was amazing at hiding his feelings and thoughts. There were signs that those closest to him could pick up on, but not always, sadly not always in time. Despite all Pete's struggles, he gave me the best time with him, and he treated me like a princess and loved me for me. I am forever grateful for that. Pete's love for others went beyond me. He always put everyone else first, even at his lowest points. When he found out a colleague had cancer, he quickly arranged a sponsored skydive in support for her and her family. He always wanted to help and support others when possible. One thing I had to fight Pete's attention for was his love for football, more specifically, Bournemouth. He was an avid fan from junior Cherries right up until he died. He talked about the Cherries a lot. If Bournemouth were playing, he was watching and tweeting. And what has been clear to see since he died, that he was truly loved by the football community. To anyone out there struggling themselves, you're not alone in this, even when your head is telling you otherwise. Even on your worst days, you are so loved. It's easy to tell people to reach out, but sometimes your mental health just doesn't allow this. So instead of telling people to reach out, why don't we reach in? Just message or call that friend that you haven't heard from in a while. Check in with people. Have a socially distant visit. It really can make all the difference. Losing Pete has been the hardest thing I've ever dealt with. It hurts constantly. The grief is exhausting, mentally and physically. It's something that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But if Pete's story helps just one person seek or receive help, then it has made a difference. Remember, no matter who you are, it is important to be kind. Always. So some truly amazing words there from Hannah. Thank you, Hannah. What a lovely tribute to Peter. And as she said, you're not alone in this. And if you are in a similar position, there are many charities and organisations whose details are in the description below. They provide professional advice should you ever need it, and they're always at the end of the phone, and I do suggest that you pick up the phone and talk, as she says. And talking is something that we're going to be doing on the show today. As joining me, we have three Cherries fans who want to share experiences and provide a little light as we talk about an initiative that's being established in order to provide some opportunities for Cherries fans and also those in their immediate circles to talk about their situations whilst using the beautiful game as a conversation leveller, with the ultimate aim of providing further support as and when it's needed. Now, it's worth mentioning at this stage that this whole initiative is very much, it's in its infancy, but it's moving fast. It does have the backing of the club, and it's about providing a comfortable environment for talking rather than providing any kind of professional advice. After all, we're not professionals, but further resources will be available, which I'm sure will be alluded to. So first and foremost, I'm pleased to introduce to you Simon Kay. Simon, how are you?
All right. Nice to see you, Sam.
Good, good. How have you been doing this last 3 months without football? It's been horrible, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, highs and lows and everything in between. But yeah, certainly missing the football. Although there are moments when I haven't missed the football. You know, there's kind of politics and the arguments and some of those other kind of things. But in terms of action, you know, missing it massively and can't wait for it to come back, even if I can't be there myself.
Yeah, excellent. And also we've got Damien Hill with us as well. Damien, how's it going?
Good evening, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, not too bad. Again, missing the football, but it's not just the football; it's everything else that goes with it.
Yeah, even the pies on a match day. I miss them so much. Also, we've got, well, he's still probably on a high from that interview with Fletch over the weekend. Last weekend. Tom Jordan, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yeah, all good. Thank you very much. And yeah, obviously reiterate what the guy said. Missing the football and these podcasts and stuff, being able to talk about football is definitely helping us and the viewers watching get through it, I think. So hopefully it won't be long now anyway.
Yeah, well, June the 20th, it's been live on the BBC as well, perhaps. So interesting time. So Simon, we'll start with you. We've been talking for a while about this, and from what I've heard from you, it all sounds a very positive initiative. Obviously, with what I've just said, I've just scratched the surface with what I've described so far. But can you tell me a bit about your background and what led you to get to the idea of actually putting this thing in place?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing to say there is putting this thing in place, it's not just me. Obviously, in terms of wanting to try and make it happen, I took the initiative after the sad passing of Pete and saw the wonderful positive support and outpouring of genuine care and affection there was from fans at that time. And we all live with mental health, positive, negative, hard days, easier days, etc. And I wanted to try and use that positivity to make something happen. And in order to make that happen, it needs to bring other people together, and hence the team, which really is initially other fans and talking about things at games, at halftime, before games, etc., etc., about how we could possibly take what is a fantastic positive experience, football, and the emotional journey, what that brings, but to try and take that to another level, to give every fan a possible route, if they needed it, to help them out.
And tell me a little bit about what the initiative involves and who might want to come along and who would benefit from it.
So this moved on quite quickly up to the virus, and when lockdown happened, we were very close to making this a reality. So who may want to come along? The way that we can eulogize about this is almost like an extension of the game or the pub or the fun and engagement and conversation that there is around football. And possibly anybody could come along. I mean, originally this started off potentially as a men's mental health initiative, but it's going to be open to everybody, no matter what your background or what your situation, to come along to events, see it almost like a get-together. You might not get together with other fans very regularly, and you might think, oh, that's a nice place to go, but you can actually go to somewhere where you'll feel comfortable, where if you did want to speak about something that was on your mind, there will be like-minded people there. You don't have to, it wouldn't be an obligation, but we now know that that's a positive thing that most, if not all, fans would love to engage in, because many times if we do have dark moments or we're having a tough time, we do find it hard to open up. So I think we have a great opportunity with camaraderie and football fans to get together to enable that to possibly happen. not just then, but to put support structures in place that enable pathways to exist at matches, after matches, in the evenings, whatever else that might be.
Yeah, I mean, for me, being comfortable in your environment helps me to talk about things, and I definitely am at football. It's a funny old environment, as I've been saying to you recently. You're sat with a bunch of strangers, that yet you're sort of comfortable talking to any of them because you've got this football as such a leveler. We all feel comfortable, with friends or strangers when we're at Dean Court. So, I mean, what you were saying in the previous soundbite, are you sort of considering this almost a bridge then between people having their problems and then maybe getting some more help and advice?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but creating that positive, comfortable environment is really what the ultimate objective is. I think one of the difficulties that anybody who's having a tough time has sometimes is, how do I talk about that? Who do I speak to? Where do I go? Where can I feel comfortable? But also, where would that take me? So that really answers that question, I think.
And I suppose at this point, it's worth mentioning that we're not sort of mental health professionals, but there have been many conversations to get up to this point, haven't there, Simon? Can you tell me a little bit about what support you've got and who's involved in the kind of organisations you've been chatting to, etc.?
Yeah, so obviously, as I alluded to earlier, there's a team of people, just like the best teams on the football pitch. They often work best because there's a togetherness, there's a camaraderie, but also there's an openness and ability to talk. So obviously in the early stages, the first phase of this is obviously other fans, and having had conversations with them about their own experiences and how they feel, but positively how they'd be willing to offer that support to other fans. So I've had positive conversations with people who've had experience with workplace bullying, depression, alcoholism, gambling addiction, and all of them are hugely positive if necessary to use their experience to support and help others. But there's different levels that come with that. And obviously necessarily the key one is that outside of the positivity that we all want to do and want to deliver, there may come a time where there's other service providers that you might need to speak to. But we as fans can be part of that process and part of that pathway. One of those is mental health first aiders. So one of the objectives that we have, which we are going to do in partnership with the Community Sports Trust, with the approval of the club, is to have a certain number of fans trained as mental health first aiders. So the original idea as part of the team as such, that they would be available at certainly home matches, in due course, hopefully away matches as well, depending on who attends.
Yeah.
One or two or even more people that become known in each of the stands, who people can direct anyone to if they felt they needed some kind of support or someone to talk to, or to help them on that way if they also didn't feel they wanted to come to one of the events, because there's two different things there. So all of those people are key. Also very importantly is the element of trying to get people to want to come and talk. So that's where the idea of having some of the events or get-togethers at the ground, and we had conversations with, or I have done within the team with elite mental health performance experts. Obviously, the club have mentioned about possibly having someone come and talk about strength conditioning and strength of mind and various different things like that. And I have also, because my son, until obviously COVID arrived, was a regular attendee at Simon Francis Academy, and I have had a conversation with Simon about this initiative, and it's great to have his ear as a potential player who's very keen and willing to talk about his journey.
Okay, and Damien, I gather that you were one of the fans who Simon spoke to first initially about the idea, so you've been involved in steering this to what it is now, is that right?
It was, yeah. Simon come up to me and said, try to put this initiative forward. Would you be interested in helping? And straight away, without a shadow of any doubt, I said yes, because a few years ago I lost a friend of mine who took his own life. So for me, it was very close to the heart. And it was it was a no-brainer really to sign up and see if we can help. If it's just one person helping them put them back on the right path.
Okay, and so tell me about being a mental health first aider. What would that encompass, Damien?
Well, it's still early stages, but it's like Simon said, there's a phone number. Hopefully, will get through to us. We can talk to you and help and steer them in the right direction to give them the support they need. And like I say, we're here for the football, but it's not just the football. It's the everything what goes with it, the comradeship. Sits the person next to you. You don't know them, but you talk to them. You talk about football, you talk about everything else. So why not talk about mental health? It's still got a stigma where we don't talk enough about it, and we should do. So if I'm the face, what people can come talk to me about something, and I can help them, put them in the right direction. It's great. Let me help somebody.
Yeah, it's a good level in terms of conversation. And Tom, I was just thinking about the amount of times that we've chatted, probably for hours and hours on end now at different occasions. Went to the Watford game this season together when it was absolutely peeing it down, horrendous 0-0. Yet the funny thing is, outside of football, they don't really know much about you, to be honest. So can you sort of tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, well, in terms of what I do, my title would be a support worker. So I work with people that do have their own mental health diagnoses and that struggle, and I'm there to support them as a support worker, and also people, with learning difficulties and on the kind of autistic spectrum and things like that. And I've kind of got into the job through having lived experience, I guess. So I've got bipolar disorder as my diagnosis, and I managed to kind of, I guess, through my recovery, use it as a positive in, well, actually, I've got this thing that I can't get rid of, and that makes day-to-day life quite challenging. But I could use this to help people in similar positions, because you can talk to any experts, anyone you want, but someone that's got a certain level of lived experience with mental health and similar things, I think is so valuable to talk to them, because they can almost relate and put themselves in your shoes a little bit easier. So decided to get into that route of work, really, just to almost give back, because I find it very rewarding. And also, like Simon alluded to earlier, I think in terms of this initiative and various things we've been discussing through social media, through Twitter in particular, I nearly a year ago to the day, also I ended up in a psychiatric hospital through becoming unwell, and on Twitter I received over 100 messages, mainly 99% were from Bournemouth fans, because that's what I use Twitter for, really. And like you said there, Sam, it's not necessarily people that I know by face, more by their Twitter name, or might not have ever seen them before, maybe just a few chats about games and stuff, but the support and the that kind of family feel that you get just literally from going to the football just proves it straight away that, like I say, about a year ago I went to hospital and I couldn't keep up with the amount of messages I got, and it was such an amazing feeling, and to give back in any way would be fantastic. And like you say, it is a real family feel with the football, so I think it's certainly something that needs to be used, and I think Simon and Damien have got a really good plan of action here. I think it will be really successful.
Cheers. So can you tell me, Tom, just a little, in short, a little bit more about bipolar disorder and the kind of, issues that you face?
Yeah, I suppose in black and white terms, and I think probably the majority of people would hear bipolar disorder and think high and low in terms of mood. It's a mood disorder. So in terms of like medication and things like that, you're on kind of mood stabilizers, which obviously speaks for itself. It can be, there's different types, but it can be very much as extreme highs in mood to extreme lows in mood that can vary from week to week to a prolonged episode, as it's called, of kind of a low mood or a high mood for months on end. It can really vary, and I guess through support, and whether it's therapy, through medication, through talking, through different things, it's almost about learning kind of them early signs, them early warning signs to when I normally go from one episode or another, what's normally it's one of the early signs that is normally like an indicator that I might be going some way, and just letting kind of family and friends and professionals in on that, so you can almost try and not stop but prevent it going, you know, as far as it potentially could in terms of unwellness. But yeah, it's something that obviously talking to people, medication, things like that are obviously helpful. But I think just learning yourself and, you know, with time and kind of, you know, research, or just like, it's really important, I always think, to learn about what you've got and kind of learning what works for you, because what works for you might not necessarily work for someone else who potentially has got the same diagnosis as me. But yeah, I personally found having a label as such was actually quite helpful, because it allowed me to, right, I've got this is what I've got, there's a name for it, and now I know what I've got, so I can talk to people openly about it and get the right help and the right advice that I need. So but yeah, I'd say in kind of black and white terms, it's a mood disorder, very high variations of mood. Everyone kind of in life, I guess, has that up and down in mood, whether it's through circumstances, situations, the football, a defeat or a win. But I guess it's just to a real extreme. When you've got bipolar disorder, it can just be to a real extreme one way or the other. So it's just learning to manage that, really. And I found, out of all the things, that talking to people and being very open about it has helped me so much. So it's definitely something I would encourage.
And Simon, there are many different forms of mental health issue, some more complicated than others. And, you know, in some ways, I know talking doesn't make everyone feel, you know, better instantly, but at the moment, you're just trying to emphasize the importance of having a network out there that's, you know, visible and is there and available should they need it. It's almost like, as you said before, extending the pub experience. Is that right?
Yeah, it's one way of looking at it, but it's almost also really simplistically like an extended family. You know, that's what the best dressing rooms are. That's what the best friendship groups are. And that's really what this should be. And I think it will be fantastic. And we all have difficult days, as you've said, and we've alluded to, some more difficult than others. But as Damien touched on earlier, if we help one person navigate their pathway to where they want to get to in a positive way, but more significantly, it's about everybody, because every day can be difficult. And if we can be the fan initiative that positively embraces conversation, that enables anybody to go back into their life feeling better and more positive. And that's not wanting to hide any issue that's there should be found and should be supported. And we as fans should be able to help them go on that journey on a direction that they have to find for themselves. But not everybody will go that way. No. You know, many people and many fans will be able to feel the positivity, the camaraderie of not just extending the pub experience, it's extending the game experience. And as Damien said, he's missing the various elements of match day and what those experiences are. And one of those bigger things is camaraderie, is feeling more confident than you might normally be, because you're with other people that are all on the same mission. You all want to see your team win. You all want to see a great performance. You all want to leave feeling great. So that's the extension. Teamwork, we can call it the pub experience, but it's really that match day experience. And also, as Tom alluded to, the support that he received in terms of that feedback through social media. It's all there already. Yeah. It's really just tapping into it and joining some dots.
Yeah, and tell me about this, the elite mental health expert that you've got access to. And also, did you say something along the lines of the club would be perhaps willing to let players in for a talk or something just to make fans feel that little bit more involved?
Yeah, there's been various conversations. Obviously, I wouldn't want to commit to anything. I mean, The key thing with this is the balance between where this sits. And I think the key message is that this is a fans initiative and we can drive this. And I think that's a good thing about it. In terms of who you end up speaking to and where conversations take you, sometimes you never know. So, yes, I have and was introduced to what we will term an elite mental health performance expert who's worked with Formula One drivers and football players and various others to bring out that positivity when you're having moments of sheer negativity, even if you're a professional sports person. And I think that's important to know, especially in these times. They might get to some people paid extortionate amounts of money, but they're just people and they can have difficult moments as well. So that's part of that process. Indeed, also when we've discussed the possibility of having events or get-togethers at the club is what direction they take. And we're football fans, and we're not just interested about the 11 men on the pitch. It's the youth team, there's the sports science, there's all sorts of elements that go into making a successful team. And I think as fans and as this initiative evolves, there will be many elements that will over time come together to make this a success. So that may be that when we have events at the stadium, yes, it could be that there are tours of the ground. It could be that someone from the sports science department comes and talks and shares some insight, because most fans would love a bit more insight of how this works and why is that, and to ask some questions to different layers of the football team experience. And ultimately, yes, if we can have some player engagement, naturally that takes it to another level, but the players are busy, the players do have lots of other commitments. It's not always going to be that easy. But what I can say from my own conversation with Simon Francis, and also inferences on other levels, is of course, if we as fans can get something like this going, that's another connection to the team. Because they're guys, there's other staff involved in the club, and we're all in it together. I don't want to use together anything as possible too much, but it's a good analogy for what we could achieve together.
The club, Damien, have you seen the club's been fairly proactive over the last sort of 3 months with players? They've been calling junior cherries on the phone, and Fletcher's also been recently reaching out to fans on Twitter to check in with them. It's been really good to see, hasn't it?
It has, and the kids, must love it. Being at home, and all of a sudden, you've got a video call or you've got a telephone call from, your favourite player. It's tough on the kids. No social interaction at all outside. Up until the last couple of weeks, they couldn't go out, not allowed out. But the club's doing everything they can. With the community trust, they've got their sports packs, I've forgotten what the word is, the schools. So the schools get a pack and they can do their training, the quizzes and everything to go with it. So the club's doing everything they can to help, everybody get through it, and especially for the kids.
And as you alluded to, the video messaging side of things, I mean, Simon, obviously not everyone may be able to attend these events, whenever they will happen. Obviously, we'll keep people updated with that. But would there be any plans to do anything over Zoom or online to make it more accessible, maybe to those who perhaps can't attend?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the positives of what lockdown has meant for many people, is the engagement rates of having to use Zoom or Skype or other tools has increased exponentially. So yes, there will be other opportunities, and I think the best benchmark that we can give for this is the men's cancer group, that has existed at the club for a short time now, and those used to happen at the club, and they have predominantly moved on to online. So they do have those get-togethers in the Zoom environment or whatever works for those people. And I think just having this conversation now, and how Tom spoke there very eloquently about his experience and how he's wanting to share that with others, we're achieving something now, just talking like this. So again, if the right structure, and as you say, we're not mental health experts. We all have our own mental health journey, but there will be that opportunity. That will happen. Okay, it's not the ideal. It's not the ultimate objective of what we had hoped, but there will be the ability for us to direct people to small get-togethers, bigger get-togethers, or whatever that may be. We still have some boxes to tick. We can't say that this is totally ready, but we're very close.
Well, camaraderie and interpersonal relationships is sort of one of the basic human needs. And even if a single person benefits from the initiative, then I think it's totally worth it. And Tom, the sort of interpersonal relationships, we're going to be missing those on June the 20th when the season restarts. How are you going to feel once watching the Cherries walk out to an empty stadium? It's going to be weird, isn't it?
It's going to be very bizarre. I've been watching a little bit of the Bundesliga in Germany, and it's just I'm more just because to get a football fix, really. But watching it and just thinking, I'm still, even with watching that, I can't imagine watching Bournemouth without any fans. Like you say, we might be one of the first games on the telly and stuff, and it's going to be bizarre. But I mean, first and foremost, it'll be nice to have football back. But I think, as Simon mentioned earlier, I think it isn't just you don't go to the football just for the match, in my opinion. I don't think many people do. I think it's the whole day, that whole experience. As we were saying earlier, you've got people kind of that potentially, if you've got a season ticket like myself, people around me that I know all of them by their face, say hello to all of them, don't know their names, don't know them from outside of football, but I've probably been sitting with them for years, and we've almost been on that journey up to the Premier League together. And it's really, it is a strange feeling, but it's also, like we we're saying then, with social media as well, with that in the grounds, we're nearly there already in terms of them connections. They're already there. It just needs to be taken on. And I think this is something that can, almost just open a door and take it onto that next level and get people talking a bit more openly and building connections and engagement, really. And it's really important. So, yeah, it's good.
I said recently to Peter Rutzler from The Athletic that match day for me, like you said, it's not about the 90 minutes. It's about everything that goes around it. There are faces that I've seen since I was 7 or 8, and they're still going now, and I know nothing about their lives because at 5 o'clock, 5:30, once they go home, they could, I don't know where they live, but during that sort of 2-3 hours, I'd feel comfortable enough to just go up to them and chat to them, and it's just seeing their faces that makes me smile. And they're in their same routine, the same things they do every week. I see people when I walk past the club shop, I see people sat in the same place each time reading the programme. It's those little things that I think are great and make the experience, for me. And what we're going to try to do on the podcast as well, not that we can replicate it at all, but is have online fan chats both before and after a game, where it's a free-for-all. Anyone can come in and nip out when they want, grab a beer, grab a coffee, grab a pie, just talk about the game, very openly. And hopefully we can do that because I've really enjoyed the chats that we've had, and Simon, talking is such a great benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, and literally we're doing it now. We're just extending that conversation, and we are extending the vibe and the positivity. Okay, yes, we will lose from time to time, as everybody does. But being able to, as you say, extend that conversation after a game into other environments, keep it moving. And this isn't rocket science. It just needed the extra connections, as I alluded to earlier, to enable it to happen. But in an ideal world, this becomes very fluid and it just will exist. Because one of the difficulties, which we touched on earlier, if somebody does need to open up, they might feel that they can't because they don't have that environment. So extending that feeling and that emotion and that camaraderie and community is the biggest thing that we can do together.
Brilliant. Yeah, excellent. Well, Simon, I've spoken to you before on the podcast. You've been on one of our videos, and Tom, of course, you have as well. So, Damien, I'm going to give the last word to you in terms of the Cherries this season. Are we going to stay up?
For me, I want to stay up, but positivity, mental health, yes. They're saying that our match with Crystal Palace is going to be the most watched game ever for football. I think 3 points on the Saturday or whatever day it is, we stay up. A point, we stay up. We lose, we can still stay up. We're Cherries fans. It doesn't matter, does it? We go down, we stay up. I'm still 50-50. I can't do it.
I'm gonna. Well, I think we'll be all right, but it all starts on the 20th. That's the mooted date as it stands. So yeah, looking forward to that, gents. Thank you very much, Simon. Great to chat to you.
And you. Thank you very much. Thanks for being there and carry on with what you're doing. Loving it.
We'll try our best. And also, Damien, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. And we will stay up.
Good man. And Tom Jordan, as ever, nice to chat, mate.
Thanks, boss.
Good man. And if you're watching this and you are in need of some professional help, obviously check the description below because there are details of organisations there. But it's been great to chat to you, lads. We'll provide more info on our socials. Make sure you follow Simon on Twitter as well. Simon, what's your Twitter handle?
AFCB Dad.
AFCB Dad, love it. Make sure you give him a follow. And also, today of all days, whether you're drinking a coffee or a beer or whatever, raise a toast for Peter Humphrey. He left this world 1 year ago today and was a truly brilliant and articulate individual, someone who was passionate about helping others with their own mental health. We'll see you in the next video.